Hello, retro gamers. Welcome to the Video Game Flashback podcast. That's right, Video Game Flashback is back. It's coming out of hiatus after 14 years. 14 years ago, or should we say closer to 15 years ago, I recorded a couple videos on YouTube and such. I used to do game reviews on there. I did quite a few around 2007 and into 2008. My aspiration was... my inspiration, part of me, was the Angry Video Game Nerd, Irate Gamer, guys like that, Chris Boris, out of Ohio, Angry Video Game Nerd out of New Jersey, of all places, Hyrule, New Jersey, so pretty darn crazy. Did a number of videos, and then I joined the sportstuff.com, obviously sports fan. I'd been reviewing Minnesota Vikings games and talking about the Timberwolves and Minnesota Wild, so I'm based out of Golden Valley, Minnesota, which is a western suburb of Minneapolis, Minnesota. A sports fan, retro gaming fan, kind of all that. I joined on board again, like I said, the sportstuff.com. I was invited sometime during the fall of 2007, ultimately joined in January 2008. And then, of course, most of my YouTube videos had been made by then for sports and some video game ones. Dylan Richardson, the founder of the sportstuff.com and executive producer, created a feed called Video Game Flashback, and we uploaded, or at least he did, uploaded 3 videos: Double Dribble, Gyromite, and Operation Wolf, which I recorded later in 2008, around April that year, right before the spring cleanup season kind of took over. Things got crazy and work picked up, and of course, and I'm still doing that kind of work all these years later as a second job. But Video Game Flashback was created in that sense. Maybe I would keep doing videos on YouTube and such, and maybe someday I might start a audio podcast, a traditional podcast style like this is right now. Episode number 4, a pilot episode for Video Game Flashback. So I figure I'm gonna go with this. Why the heck not? Come out of hiatus after about 14 and a half, almost 15 years. Video Game Flashback is coming back, and this time it's an actual real podcast rather than a few videos, but you're welcome to check those out anytime. On applications that actually allow video for those. Spotify does, apparently, which is where this is featured on Anchor.com. Of course, Apple Podcasts is probably the most popular podcast app out there, and Video Game Flashback is hooked up and all set, ready to go with Anchor. And of course, Spotify, as soon as this episode is uploaded, when you're listening to it, it's also available on Spotify, and I'm going to try to get it out to the other major ones like iHeartRadio, Audible, and such. So it's going to be cool. Very exciting. Odyssey, ones like that. Google Podcasts actually is already there as well. It's just not showing up as an official affiliate just yet. My goal is, again, to review retro video games from anywhere from the 70s, basically Atari 2600, maybe even some Pong games, Pong consoles, all the way up to like the mid-90s, PlayStation 1, something like that, up to like Final Fantasy 7, games like that. Dare I call Final Fantasy VII the death of the great Final Fantasy series, and it became more of a sci-fi fantasy series, science fiction fantasy, or just sci-fi 2, final sci-fi is another way to call that. But again, there's of course no set schedule for this show. It's not time sensitive like, say, the Minnesota Wild right now flashing on the screen live against the Anaheim Ducks. I still don't understand why a team called the Ducks would wear hunter orange. So what, you want to be hunted? Maybe that's why the Ducks are so bad this year. I don't know. It's just, I find that very strange. It's kind of funny. Oh yeah, we're out hunting ducks, but you are the Ducks. Why do you want to be hunted? That doesn't make any sense. So I've always gotten a kick out of that. Maybe you're the opponent, like we're hunting ducks, but sorry, I'm getting into sports now, which some of you may be interested, some of you won't. Purple Mafia, Timberwolves Explosion, and Brave the Wild are the 3 sports shows I do locally. But again, back to retro games, which is where this show is 100% focused. Is my goal here is to keep it close enough to on topic as possible. There are so many popular, and I mean very popular, retro video game shows out there that venture off into La La Land all over the place, including one that I will not name. Of course I'm not going to name them. That does NES episodes and all that. They review NES games. They came up with a Castlevania review and basically talked about maybe talked about Castlevania maybe 25% of the episode. It was atrocious. And yet everybody defended them and basically thought I was a hater and bashing you guys and this and that. I wasn't even bashing them. It's like I kept saying it's a really good show, but my God, can you guys take it a little more seriously? Can we talk about the game instead of about your personal life and and just BSing around? So stuff like that. I don't like that very much. And I couldn't believe how many people say the the off-topic stuff is why I listen to the show. Okay, the off-topic stuff is why you listen to the show. Wow, you must watch reality TV all day then, I guess. I mean, woo, that's really exciting. But reality TV is popular for some reason. Why? I don't know. I'll never understand that. But that's kind of my goal, is to create game reviews where we talk about the game. Sure, there might be some humor mixed in, this and that, but it's not going to be me talking about my personal life or, just BSing around. Just BSing around thinking I'm real cool and real funny. Again, like Simon said on that other popular reality type show where people are attempting to be singers, he would ask the person, someday you'll come back and wonder how you possibly blew the opportunity of a lifetime by trying to be bad comedians. And that's kind of how I look at some of these shows out there. Not only just the BSing around like, personal life or just attempting to be funny when it's just, okay, can talk about the game a little bit. It's like 5 seconds. And then there's other shows where it's like, again, unnamed, of course, because it's nothing personal, it's business. Like 85% of the show is talking about game expos coming up. Like, really? Am I listening to hear about your frickin' game expo? Is this an infomercial? Or are you talking about this retro game system and games on it? Are you going to review the game that's the title of the episode? Or are you going to talk about a game expo that's coming up in like a year and a half? Or, in a lot of cases, most of us are trying to catch up on the show. It happened 3 years ago. I don't give a damn. So let's talk about Mr. Do. Let's talk about Pac-Man. Let's talk about Super Mario Brothers. I would appreciate that. So that's my goal, is to try to keep it close to that if humanly possible. Again, don't expect 100%. I'm not, I don't want to be just like a machine who's boring as hell, because that's the other extreme. But at the same time, again, you want to be on topic if humanly possible. I know I'm rambling and flapping my gums maybe a little bit too much, but I got frustrated with that kind of stuff. Show after show after show after show after show after show. What have you been up to, John? Stuff like that. And it's like, oh boy, there goes about half of the show. Other good shows, about 50% of it, same thing. Personal life and talking about new games. I don't want to talk about new games. If you're here to talk about modern games on the Switch, on whatever the heck the new system is, PS5, Xbox One, Xbox 2, Xbox 3, Xbox 4, you're probably coming to the wrong place. I'd rather go venture off into the Sega Master System, the NES, the PlayStation 1, the Sega Genesis. You could go on and on and on. Maybe a little bit of Saturn. I don't know. I wasn't as interested in the Saturn, even though there's some good games we'll see. Obviously, these wonderful Genesis minis that came out. Sega CD, which I wish they had the Lunar games. But we're definitely going to talk about Lunar 1 and Lunar 2 at some point. So, yeah, Lunar the Silver Star, the real one, not Complete. I'll probably have a big ranting episode about the Complete. But how Lunar 2 obviously was a great Sega CD game, and they improved on it a little bit with the PlayStation version. See, they didn't change the music. They didn't change the story. They didn't get too cute with it, like they did with Lunar the Silver Star Story Complete. They did a really good job with Lunar Eternal Blue Complete, which you could tell they probably got a lot of complaints. They bleeped up Lunar the Silver Star Story. So you're going to hear stuff like that. You're going to hear my personal feelings, Final Fantasy 5 and such, or 7. Yeah, Final Fantasy 5 probably as well. Breath of Fire. I mean, you could go on all day. Obviously, I love RPGs, but there's some wonderful platforming games, action games, arcade classics that we're going to enjoy very, very much. And some episodes will be 10 minutes, maybe as short as 10 minutes if there's not a whole lot to say. Maybe 10 to 15 to 20 is more like it. And then some episodes might go on for an hour plus or even an hour and a half if there's really a whole lot to say. But with that said, thank you for checking this out. And I'm thinking the first show for this podcast, like episode 5 is going to be based on Super Mario Brothers. That's my guess, but it could change. Maybe just a vibe. We'll talk about games like Jumping Flash. Paul Tuna versus Kenneth. I might try to get him on for that, and I think I should. He's the appropriate guy. Secret of Evermore, a game that was often kind of overlooked. Earthbound was overlooked. It isn't overlooked anymore. Oh, we'll be talking about that one. I can't wait. It'll be a big one, I'm sure. So look forward to that. Again, no set schedule. The next episode might be months from now. It might be weeks from now. It might be days from now. We'll see. I apologize that it'll be sporadic and inconsistent, but name a single video game show where it's basically a set schedule, except maybe the exception of the Atari 2600 Game by Game podcast. That's one that I will mention because I think he does a wonderful job. That's Robert Ferguson, Ferg as they call him. He does a wonderful job. So one thing I should mention before I try to sign off here is you might want to know the introduction song for this show going forward. In case you don't know, it is Flashback from the Sega Genesis. Think about it. Flashback, video game flashback. So it doesn't get better than that. It might not be the prettiest and coolest sounding introduction music, but flashback, video game flashback. I mean, it's perfect. So why the hell not? It might not be your favorite game ever made either. I'll probably do a review on that one at some point. Maybe not. We'll see. It's it's an extremely hard game. And so we'll see. I don't know how far I would ever get into that one. Maybe I would be more like research and commentary about it versus actually playing all the way through it. So that's the hard part when it comes to a game like that. Other ones I've played through so many times, I could sit down and talk about the entire damn game. I have a very good memory. So at the end of the day, with all of that said, we'll be looking to wrap up this first episode. And again, look forward to something like Super Mario Brothers, maybe a combat, maybe a... maybe like an adventure, something like that. Those are Atari games. Something simple to get things started off, to kind of get the blood flowing. Hopefully you guys enjoy it. And of course, this show is kind of, in a sense, to get the blood flowing, to at least get the first episode out there. So, the show can start moving again on Anchor and such. It was dormant for, again, 14 and a half years on thesportstuff.com. That's my own fault. That's definitely not Dylan's fault. I just never came back to it. I kept thinking, oh yeah, maybe I'll do that. And then I just never did. I got so tied up in all the sports games, and even a show called Freedom of Thought, which still very much exists, and that one's on Anchor as well. Otherwise, the next release of this show could be months away, it could be weeks away, it could be days away. We'll see. It just kind of depends on the feeling. But the fact that we're probably going to keep it simple to start things out, it shouldn't be too far away, and it won't be the longest episode, I'm sure. With that said, have a good couple days, weeks, or months, and game on.